Alright, welcome to part 2 on the Polaris Outlaw 500. As you guys know, we picked this thing up probably a couple days ago for $940. And last video, we found out that the one-way bearing was bad. So this thing came with a parts one-way bearing. So we took some of the bearings from the parts one-way bearing and put them in the junk one-way bearing, and that seemed to work. So we got it all buttoned up over here, and everything's back together. The stator's back in there. Everything's looking good, and the one-way bearing's working. So today we're going to fix the timing. Last video we found that the lobes were pointing towards each other, and they're supposed to be pointing away from each other. So we're gonna fix that today. We have to take off all the cams. We've got to take off the timing chain, all that fun stuff today. So pretty big project, but we should be able to get it done and then attempt the first start. So all this stuff has to come off, all the plastics, gas tank, seat has to come off so we can get to the valve cover and check out those cams in there. If we get all that stuff done today and it starts up, we can start working on the speedometer and all this fun stuff in here. All this wiring needs to be done. So we have quite a bit of work. All right, so this is kind of what we're working with. We're pretty much at top dead center right now, and as you can see, the lobes are pointing the opposite directions. So we're gonna try to figure out what's going on with that. We gotta first get this thing to actual top dead center. Make sure it's actually at top dead center. So these two things come out, two covers. This thing was really stripped out, so they must have been playing with the timing. You can see how badly that's stripped out. I don't know if it's gonna pick that up. I mean, it's stripped out completely. This one down here doesn't look too stripped out. All right, this one should work. So we're gonna rotate this until we see the T up in the window up here. So we're gonna rotate this counterclockwise, the way the engine rotates. You guys probably all know this, but for people that don't, I'd like to go over it one more time. I'll try to get in there for you guys to see what that T looks like. You guys see? So there's a T right on the right side, and then there's a line right next to the T right here. And there's supposed to be an arrow in this little window, but there's not. So just assume that there's an arrow there. So you want to line up the arrow with that line. You can see the line right there. So we're perfectly at top dead center. And look at that, the lobes are pointing the right way. Huh. That is very interesting. We might just, we might not even have a problem. Let's rotate this one more time to see if we're at top dead center for real. I don't like that clicking. It could need a valve adjustment, so we can check that too. There, that's a top dead center again. Let's see. Oh, wow, yep. It looks like the lobes are pointing in the correct way. So, I don't know why it wasn't before. You can see this cam lobe is pointing this way, that cam lobe is pointing that way. That's the way it's supposed to be. You can see the dot right there. And then there's a dot up here. And then there's a dot right here and right there. So this thing's timed perfectly. Huh, that's very interesting. Well, that saves me some work. That's good. Going to check the valve clearances here just to make sure they're in spec. A lot of times on these, the intake get really tight and then they're really hard to start, which is what I'm guessing happened here because you can see the air filter is off and they're spraying stuff down the carburetor. So I'm guessing it was pretty hard to start. We'll check compression too, just to make sure that's in spec. Alright, just looked up the specs in this forum for a Polaris Outlaw from 2006, and it looks like we've got 0.006 inches for the intake, which is this side, and then 0.01 inches for the exhaust, which is towards the exhaust. Here's the 0.06 gauge going in here. We're going to go right underneath the... That feels pretty good. That went right in. It's not too loose. Catches. That catches. That's not too tight at all. Huh. That's perfect. So the exhaust, we're going to look for 0.01. The exhaust could be tight as well. 0.011. 0.012, 0.01 right here. All right, we got the gauge right here. Let's test these guys out. That's pretty much perfect too. Then there's one right here. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Well, the valves are in spec, so that's good. Apparently this thing was hard to start, so I guess what we can do now is check compression, just to make sure we don't have a bent valve or something. This thing has a decompression lever on it, on the cam. On one of the cams. This one might be deleted. I think this one's actually deleted on it because it's a hot cams. I can't see it. Yeah, I think this one's deleted. Interesting. Right now in it is a stage 2 hot cams, so we might be changing that out if it's too hard to start, or if it's too hard on the starter. But let's do the compression test. All right, before we even do the compression test, we have to see if this thing turns over. So we just installed the one-way bearing, so let's see if that works. If it turns over, the one-way bearing's working. If it doesn't, the one-way bearing's not working. So let's do that. We'll hook up a battery quick and see what happens. Fingers crossed it works. I've got a one-way bearing ordered, but that's not coming for a couple days. So, all right, we got the battery charger hooked up. Let's see what happens here. Sounds good. All right, that one-way bearing seems like it's working. Let's do the compression test next. See if I can get this in a good position here. All right, we'll do with throttle open first. I feel like it's gonna be pretty high. Let's see here. Throttle open. Yeah, that's pretty good. 110, 20, 130 pounds of compression. Do it one more time. Again, 130. I don't think we have a bent valve in there anywhere. That's really high. This plug is an NGK DCPR6E. All right, so now it's got compression. Let's see if she's got some spark here. Turn it on. Huh. Doesn't have the best spark in the world. It's like sporadic. Check this out. See, only sparks certain times. Huh. That could be a problem. Let's throw a new spark plug in there. Maybe it's fouled. All right, let's check it. See how it only sparks like when you let it off? It only does like 2 sparks. Very, very strange. I don't know what that would be. Let's check out the wiring here. Something's going on. That's not supposed to be like that. All right, this coil boot was taped up. Let's take off the tape and see what's going on underneath here. That could be an issue. We'll check the easy stuff first. It is cracked in there. You can see the crack right there. See that crack right here? It's not great. Let's just see what's going on. Wasn't really in there too far. See if that did anything. Nope. Alright, this air box has to come out so we can get to the coil. For some reason the coil's tucked underneath here. We can see the coil is right here. So let's get that off, clean up the grounds, clean up all these wires in here, make sure everything's good. See the pulsar coil wires are coming in from right. We can always try a different CDI too, but pulsar coil is going. Where is that guy? I think it's right here. Now let's break. One of these is. I think that's going right to the CDI over there. Alright, well, we'll clean up all these connections. Alright, so I just found something. This wire was cut right here. Not really sure what that wire is for. We're going to investigate, but that might be important. I wonder if that was just cut in half when that air box is put in. But that seems like it's pretty important. I mean, yeah, there's a wire coming out of the CDI that's black. I don't know if that's important or not. I mean, it's probably pretty important, I'm guessing. Why would that be cut? Yeah, so it's coming out of the CDI. It's a black one coming out of the CDI right here. So there's a black, purple, and red coming out of the CDI. And then there's also this one that goes right down to the coil. That one's the most important one right there. The white and blue going to the green down to the coil. So I'm not sure what this one's for. It looks like ignition, something like that. Very interesting. Well, let's reattach it and see if that fixes the problem. It's worth a shot. All right, just twist those two wires together for testing purposes. Let's check the spark now. Wouldn't that be something if that was the fix? The wire was just cut. No. Doesn't look like it. Alright, so I just hooked up this green wire coming out of the CDI. This one goes right down to the coil. I put a wire in here and then connected it to ground, and that just was like tapping it on the ground just to see if there were sparks. And it was sporadic spark, just like what the coil produced. So I'm thinking it's the CDI because it's coming directly out of the CDI. So let's try swapping the original CDI for this CDI and see what happens. I think that's a good test. The CDI is tucked right back here. We got to get the back plastics off to get the CDI off. But the CDI is right up here. Gotta get that guy out of here. Alright, here it is. This should just come right off now. Which way does this go? So this is a Procom CDI. We've got the original in the box over here. Let's see. Is it in here or in here? Oh, here it is. Let's try hooking that up. All right. Let's check for spark again here. Oh yeah, baby. Look at that. That's what it's supposed to do. Alright, that's fixed. That is awesome. That is awesome. So we're getting consistent spark now. It was the CDI. Good thing we had the original. So let's get that CDI mounted back up here and see if this thing starts up. We still have to check the fuel pump. Alright, we're going to leave the spark plug boot off while we test the fuel pump here. Alright, let's see if this fuel pump works. We've got gas on. Everything's working. Let's see. Pumps out some gas here. Ooh. Spark plug boot is sparking right here. There we go. We got some fuel coming now. Alright, that's working. Alright, so we've got compression, spark, and fuel. This thing should fire up. First start attempt coming up right now. Let's see what happens. she runs. Awesome. Man, that's a good feeling. That's a really good feeling. Runs great. That exhaust is loud. Holy cow, that's loud. But we're just gonna check fluids, make sure everything's good before we run this thing for a while. Just checking the oil again, checking the coolant again, just making sure everything's perfect. All right, we got the air box all hooked up. That's looking pretty good. Let's get these plastics tied back down. All right, just wanna make sure the fluids are all good after running it for a little while. Let's check the oil first. Hopefully it's not milky. That would be the worst case scenario. It wasn't when I checked it last, but let's just check it again here. Not much on that dipstick. Yeah, not much on there. Let's screw this in all the way. See if it touches the dipstick. Might have to do an oil change here. Yeah, nothing on that dipstick. So yeah, let's drain that oil out of there. We'll have to put some new stuff in. Oh, cover wasn't even on. Looks like it's topped off. Yeah, coolant. Yeah, it's pretty much topped off. We can add a little coolant in there. All right, just topped off the coolant. So let's put the cap back on, work on the oil. All right, getting a little oil change going here. Ooh, well that's not good. A big metal chunk in there. Huh. Look at that thing. That just came out. It looks like a screw of some sort. It's got threads on it. A bunch of other metal chunks in there too. Huh. I wonder if the guy dropped a bolt down the crankcase area. Oil's coming out pretty good. Definitely needs to be changed. We're gonna do a filter change too. Filter goes right here. All right, let's get the filter off of here. See if there's any metal chunks in here. Alright, let's see. Any metal chunks? I hope there's nothing. Doesn't look like there's any metal chunks, that's good. So it's only in the bottom end that there's a chunk. And I'm thinking it was just a bolt that fell down there. All right, we've got a high flow filter going in. HF12. Looks like this. The blunt side without the gasket goes right into that spring. Will that spring stay in there though? Here's this thing go on. Goes like this. Gotta drain the oil tank now. 14 millimeter. Gets this one out of here. Yeah, got some oil drain out of there now. Let's see what this looks like. Any metal chunks on here? It looks like just a bunch of old oil. I don't think this has had an oil change in a while. This thing takes 2 quarts using some Lucas oil 10W40. All right, let's get this oil circulating. Sounding pretty good. All right, we let this thing run for a little bit. Let's check the oil now. You can see it's pretty clear. Yeah, it looks really good. All right, that oil's nice and clear. So, we're good to go. Doesn't look like coolant's leaking into it. Not milky at all. All right, pretty much all cleaned up. Look how sharp this thing looks. Thing is looking mean. I bet you this thing goes really fast with all these mods. Stage 2 cams are supposed to make this thing fly, so. Plus the exhaust. And I don't know what the sprocket setup is on this thing, but I'm guessing it's geared to go fast, so. Can't wait to take it for the first ride and get this thing all put back together. We still have to figure out the speedometer. I'm gonna look into this a little bit later and see if we can get this all hooked up. You can see all the wires are coming out of it, not hooked up or anything. We'll have to figure that out. And then we gotta get a battery for this thing. Battery goes right up here. Right up there. So we gotta go find the battery. What else do we need for this thing? Trying to think here. We gotta get the seat back on, the other plastics back on. Oh yeah, we need some grips before we ride this thing. So, gonna order up some grips as well. Oh, and then the reverse. We need the reverse like mechanism. So we'll have to buy that and order that up too. But it's definitely coming along. We got running today. We got good spark today. Guys, stay tuned for next video. We'll get everything hooked up, good to go, and take it for the first ride. I'm pumped to see what this thing can do because it's modded out. So stay tuned for that. Should be pretty fun. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Until next time, we